Happy evening, my diehards, my degenerates, my gamblers. How's everybody doing out there tonight? Welcome to the Die Hard MMA podcast. As always, on your Monday evening, coming to you. You know what? I feel like we need to address the elephant in the room here. Obviously, your boy's having some technical difficulties. I want to apologize right off the bat because I know there's a handful of about 20 of you right now who are live in the chat waiting for your shout out. You came here, you got in early, you hit the like button already. I see you every week. You know who you are, and I can't bring your comments up. I can't highlight your name to shout you out because I had to do this one pre-recorded. I hate to burst your heart that way. I am so sorry, you guys. But the reason I'm having to pre-record this show is because the upload would, seriously, we would have lost connection and it would have ruined our guest experience for this show because our internet is absolutely atrocious right now. So again, from the bottom of my heart, my sincerest apologies to you. You're getting a solo show tonight, folks. We had an awesome, high-ranking, high S-tier guest for you on the show this evening, and we're gonna have to push him back. So I'm very sorry, but you know what? Gather around the campfire, kiddos. It's Clint time. We're going to have just a little one-on-one, just you and me. It's going to be a straight-up show where we get nice and cozy with each other. I wish I could interact with the chat, but you know what? This is as good as it's going to get. I'll do another solo stream one of these days here where it's just you and me, and we can chat, and we can go back and forth, and I'll highlight all your comments and stuff like that. It's been way too long since I've done one of those for you. So we will definitely get that on the docs. But without further ado, I've blustered far enough at this point. Let's get into the dang show. We got to talk about last week's card first and foremost. Holy crap, UFC 290. As you can tell, I don't deserve to rock the baby blues today. I am coming off of another L, and it makes me incredibly sad to say because we started this year on an absolutely insane pace. And as most of you know, when it comes to sports gambling, you can't sustain that crap, right? Like the fact that we were just winning week in and week out, every single prediction I made was coming true to a T. It was all perfect. That stuff just can't keep up forever, right? Even the best gamblers in the world, which I am not, can't sustain that kind of a pace. So we've hit a little bit of variance. We've taken a couple little steps back. We're going to get back on track. But UFC 290 was one of those cards where you've got to just kind of take the gambling and put it off to the side just a little bit, because even though I took a loss, it was one of the most spectacular nights of violence we have ever seen. 290 had it all. It was exciting. There were big finishes. I think they set a record for the most highlight reel finishes in under 60 seconds in a single evening. The amount of underdogs, oh my goodness. And I sound like an idiot because I came on this podcast last week and I told you guys that finally we would see the rebirth of the favorites, right? This felt like a very chalky card to me. And the dogs just keep barking. 2023 has been the year of the dog, and it's not slowing down. I keep expecting it to revert to the mean, get some of that variance, some of that, what's the term? I'm not even sure what term I'm looking for at this point, but you guys know, I just think it's going to calm down at a certain point, and I thought it was going to be on Saturday. No. That was not the one. So the night kicks off. Let's just go ahead and do a recap. Kem Willikirk, first bet of the night, beat a big line movement, and just classic Clint fashion, CLV doesn't matter for me. If we beat a big line movement, your boy is losing that bet. That's just how it goes. Like, if the world agrees with me on something, I cannot bring that bet home. It just doesn't seem to happen that way. Kirk did everything I asked him to. He looked better at 155. He had more volume. He went for the grappling offense immediately, but you got to give Esteban Ribovics credit where it's due. I talked about how bad this guy's takedown defense was. Greatly improved. Massively improved. He got put on his back for basically the entire first round. hardly gave up a takedown in the second, and then in the third, it was all Ribovics. So, like, we got to put him in the weaponized cardio category, folks. This is a kid that we need to keep an eye on because as he does get better, I knew he was going to get better. I knew he was going to be dangerous, but I was hoping that one more fight with poor takedown defense, Kirk being able to lock up rounds 1 and 2, maybe catching him in a sub early, something like that. I thought that was on the table. I actually don't mind the handicap of this fight. Looking back on it, I wouldn't say that Kamwilla Kirk was a bad bet. It was a losing bet, but I think the value was there as far as him coming through the way we thought that he would. He just needed to do a better job in that second round. He could have got home at 29-28. Didn't go our way. Is what it is. That's one of those ones where I'm okay with. The next one, I am not. The next one I feel awful about because Shannon Ross is one of those mangy, slobbery underdogs that I really thought was going to have his his day in the sun finally. I thought he was going to be okay here in this spot. Jesus Aguilar has never knocked a single person out in his life. Like, it's just, he doesn't have a single KO on his record coming into this thing. And that's my main talking point, is that if Shannon Ross can avoid the guillotine, he wins this fight pretty much everywhere. What does Aguilar do? He bites down on his mouthpiece and throws a perfectly timed overhand after feinting the takedown and nukes Shannon Ross in 17 seconds. It doesn't get worse than that. Like, when you say a guy A doesn't have power and then B, the other guy's got him covered everywhere and he dies in 17 seconds the exact way you said wasn't possible. Bad read, bad bet. Shannon Ross is getting the boot from the UFC. It's over. I never should have tried to recover on that spot, and I feel awful for it. So sorry if anybody jumped in on that one. That was, I believe, one of the bets that I put up on Bet Openly, though. So whoever you are out there that took my action, congratulations. You got some Clint bucks here last week. Cameron Simon, though, I mean, we talked about Terrance Mitchell. You cannot get anybody out of Alaska FC. Okay, there's been 3 of them, I think. Jose Aldo, actually, believe it or not, I think had some Alaska FC fights, which is shocking to me because he's a legend, right? And then you've got who's our guy, Jared Cannonier, that's doing the dang thing right now after coming out of Alaska FC. But that's basically it. Like, it's slim pickings from there. And we had that big old discussion about how Terrance is basically a fraud. Even though he's the best guy coming out of Alaska FC, that's not good enough for the UFC. Cameron Simon, inside the distance, parlay piece, worked out very well, quite easily. I called the sub, and it looked like he was going to get it a couple different times there. So, no, I'm happy with that when everyone knew that was a squash match, so I can't toot my own horn too much. But the next fight to close out the prelims, Vitor. I keep calling him Victor. Vitor Petrino. I'm so mad. I am so mad. So I did a knockout parlay, right? Like, we needed 3 KOs to go ahead and get this thing home. And the first leg was supposed to be the easy one. And that was Vitor here. And then I played Vitor's KO prop straight because obviously he was going to knock out Marcin Prachnio. This man toyed with Marcin like a cat with a ball of yarn. Like, there was never any incentive for him to finish. There was never any threat for him to not be the one winning this fight. The minus 250 should have been minus 1,000. Like, he was never in any danger here in this fight. And it was apparent that he wanted the first submission ever of his UFC career because there were 2-3 different times where he was like mounted on Marcin Prachnio. He got his back. He was wrist riding him. He could have easily just dropped like 3 punches and the ref was going to pull it off. Marcin Prachnio wanted nothing to it, wanted nothing to do with that power. It was apparent he was shying away from every single punch that landed. The ref would have stepped in and saved him. But no. Petrino waited all the way until the 3rd round to sink in a choke because he wanted that damn submission, and that cost us some coin. So that's one of those ones where this is where we talk about variance. I know the people in the comments, I can hear your fingers going on the keyboards already that, a losing bet is a bad bet, period. No. Like, the handicap was fine. He could have knocked him out at literally any second, and the man chose not to. Crap happens when we're talking about betting just like that. Very frustrating. The next one, though, I have zero defense for. Jimmy the Brute Crute taking on Alonzo Menafield. That was like my big spot for the night. I was all in on Jimmy. The short buy-down price tag there. He slowed a little bit down in the first round, so he didn't gas himself out. I fully expected round 2 to be where he stepped on the gas and took over as Alonzo Menafield faded. Instead, he never gets in the fight and gives up a choke. He gets tapped by Alonzo Menafield, and I lose not 1 but 2 bets on him. I'm lost for words. I mean, you get a kid that's his age with his skill set, just can't seem to put it together, took a beating in his last fight, and then comes out and hangs it up after losing to the same guy in a worse manner in the second fight. Like, that's one of those ones that my pride hurts probably more than my wallet. Just an awful, awful read to trust someone with the fight IQ in that kind of a position. And also the fact that he was ready to hang it up after that fight. Like, I'm not sure if that was a moment of frustration from him, if he's actually retiring, or if that was just him being pissed off after the fight. But frankly, the fight IQ of Jimmy Crute puts him in the I'm never betting my money on you ever again category. Again, congratulations. The people that took my action on Bet Openly on Alonzo Menifield, you guys, you ran away with that one. And I was so confident that I feel so dumb. I made all the media posts, all the social media, the TikToks. I cut promos WWE style. I was ready to go on Jimmy Crute, and the man left me hanging. I will never forgive him. Next up, Denise Gomes. Dear God, she nukes Yasmin Haregi in the first round. I mean, that was one where I know a lot of really smart people, a lot of really great handicappers who are on Denise Gomes because of this threat. And I was the guy kind of sitting back and going, I've seen Yasmin get hurt. It's happened. But she always finds a way to power through it. She always manages to recover, and she's the better fighter. She's going to take over once she gets out of that hairy first 2 minutes of this fight. Sure enough, I mean, just bite my tongue, tell me to sit back down, because she did not survive that first flurry. It took 20 seconds. Gomes came in like a bat out of hell and absolutely took it to her, never let her off the hook. Ref had to pull her off. That was a stellar performance, and to anybody that cashed that plus 325, congratulations. That was a wonderful bet. At this point, we just blind bet women's MMA underdogs. Like, it's insane. Like, dogs in general right now barking, women's MMA dogs are maybe barking the loudest out of all of them. Absolute insanity. Edgar Chairez and Tatsu Taira. I'm dodging these bullets on these big favorites, thankfully, because I just don't parlay these massive favorites. I don't play that way, and it seems to be saving me on this kind of a card. Even though I lost, I could have lost more. Chairez actually had an incredible start to this fight. He had Taira in all kinds of trouble, and this is what I was looking for. I wanted to watch Taira struggle. I wanted to see what happened when he had someone who outclassed him on the feet. And frankly, I'm a little concerned about the kid's future because of it, because Chairez is not some incredible talent, and he made two massive fight IQ mistakes. Coaches, if any MMA coaches out there are listening, or if any, semi-pro or amateur fighters or anything like that, please clip this, take it to your coach. I need to pose a question to you. How are you guys not just like rolling up a newspaper and walking around your gym just bopping everybody that pulls guillotine right now? Like, we have seen it the last 2-3 weeks in a row. If you're jumping the gilly, you're just putting yourself on bottom, and more often than not, you're losing the fight. Like, I don't care if you've got the best guillotine in the game. These fighters who are in winning positions are selling themselves down the river in these spots because they want to take that opportunity to jump the gilly. Taira was in tons of trouble. Chairez probably would have gotten like a leg kick TKO if he had just kept on working on him. But instead, Taira shoots a panic takedown. He's not all the way in. It's a bad shot. Chairez could have just defended and pushed off. Nope, he jumps the gilly. And what happens? It's all Taira's game from there. Taira just completely takes over. And now every time he gets in on a takedown, he gets it. Chairez jumps guillotine a second time. And Tatsuro works his way to a unanimous decision victory because this man let him back in the fight. Unreal. Love to see the kid go through some adversity and come out on top. Hopefully he'll work on some of those striking issues, because someone who's a little sharper than Chairez is going to knock this kid out. He really needs to work on the striking. The grappling is spectacular. It's incredible, but he needs to be more well-rounded if he's going to keep having the direction that he's going. And I'm really thankful I wasn't on him as a 10-1, 11-1 favorite, because that's another one where if you bet Chairez, the value on that bet, the fact that he almost pulled it off, like, that's probably a pretty good bet in hindsight. That he could have just made one decision and won that fight at the end of that first round, at the beginning of the second round. Different story we're talking about. Robbie Lawler. Robbie freaking Lawler. Folks, I always say there's no such thing as happy endings in MMA. I always say that. There is no fairy tale in MMA. We got to adjust it now. There's no happy endings in MMA except for Robbie freaking Lawler. The dude gets inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. He comes into his final fight of the UFC, and what does he do? Round one uppercut, walk-off knockout. I couldn't be happier. I mean, he's a legend. He's bled for us for years. He's put on some of the biggest bangers we've ever seen, and he gets a walk-off KO to end his career. I'm so happy to see that. I really thought we were going to see Robbie go out on his shield. I talked about Nico not being someone we could trust. Thank goodness for that. Just one more bullet we dodged on this card, because I could have absolutely taken some Nico the way I thought this was lining up with the retirement and everything. So dodged a bullet there. Now here's where we get just a little bit back in the right direction here. Bo Nickel kicks off the pay-per-view card. 38-second KO, baby. We talked about it. Bo by however he wants. If he wants to come out here and knock this kid out, he can. If he wants to take him down and choke him out, he can. What did he do? He showed off that striking, baby. We knew that was an option. So our little 2-to-1 sprinkle there on Bo by KO comes through clean and finally gets us a win and back in the right column. We're turning the tide. We're going to bring it around. We're going to cash these parlays. Things are going to be good from here. Nope, Jalen Turner absolutely fumbles the bag against Dan Hooker. Now, I actually need to correct this just a little bit, because Jalen Turner did not fumble the bag. Jalen Turner hit Dan Hooker with a head kick that would have sent lesser man to the morgue. Jalen Turner kicked Dan Hooker so hard that he fractured his forearm. Dan Hooker posted pictures of his x-rays showing his shattered forearm on Instagram today. So Jalen Turner did everything we wanted him to. He did everything just fine. And Dan Hooker willed himself through his broken body to win this fight. I have nothing left I can say about that. I mean, Jalen Turner, that finishing upside, someone talked to me about this on Twitter, and the fact that he was like 70% implied to win at that betting line, I actually don't think that's wrong, because the finishing upside of Jalen Turner is really what brings him to that 70%. The fact that he kicked a guy so hard he broke his arm, that usually stops the fight. Most people end up getting out of there at that point. The head kick that he landed, like I said, most people do not eat that and keep on coming forward. Dan Hooker is not a mere mortal. So the fact he was able to tank all of that, obviously in hindsight, Dan Hooker was getting disrespected on that betting line, and I talked about how he's just the absolute poster child for y'all must have forgot. Like, every time we count Dan Hooker out, that's when he comes back and he puts on a spectacular performance. I can't believe he pulled that off on Saturday. It was incredible to watch. I cried a little because I lost my bet. I'm a big fan of Hookers. I'm a big fan of Turners. So it was one of those ones where at least if my guy, one of my guys was going to lose, I was going to make some money on it. Instead, one of my guys lost and I lost money on it. So turned into a big net negative there for me. Somehow Adelaide Bird scored the third round for Turner. No idea how that happens. Terrible, terrible judging in 2023 continues. Rob Whittaker, Dricus du Plessis. Bro, we called it. We absolutely called it. We smashed this one. Dricus, 3-1 dog. And some dude was talking shit to me on Twitter, like right before the fight kicked off. So I had the 2 bet openly spots where, I was giving you guys an opportunity to go head to head with me. If you disagreed, makes it a whole lot more fun. Everybody gets better numbers because we cut out the middleman with the house. And because this guy was talking crap, I went, okay, fine. I'm going to throw another bet out there then. Let's go Dricus. I'll put some on Dricus. Come get it. Someone immediately snatched my Dricus bet. It was the fastest I've had action taken ever because people were just so convinced on Robert Whittaker. Guys, I was this close. This freaking close. The 14-to-1 call on, I think it was 16-to-1, wasn't it? 14-to-1 or 16-to-1 on Dricus by sub. He was absolutely hunting the Darce choke. I could not believe he didn't quite get it and then went, fine, I'm just going to knock him out then. Like, talk about value on a number. It was right there. He was attacking the sub. He was looking for the sub. And when he couldn't get it, he finally bailed and said, fine, we'll just put the nail in the coffin. Like, what a performance. And I tweeted it, guys. I tweeted this out already. Dricus is going to beat Izzy. If you guys have been watching this show for any amount of time, I'm a giant Israel Adesanya fan. I'm a supporter. I have bet on the guy more times than I can count. He's been a bit of a money train for us on his way up. And even in the spots where people counted him out, his title defense is the Pereira spot. We're going to get a fat number on Dricus. And just like in the Rob fight, they're going to count him out. Frankly, the way this guy is built, he's got a physicality edge over most people in this division that I think is something people can't quite quantify. And that's kind of what I talked about last week, where I didn't have a technical angle where he's better than Rob. He's just meaner. He's bigger. He's stronger. He will push a pace. He's a monster. This is the guy that I thought Marvin Vettori would turn into. Turns out it's just a different big bulky white guy. Dricus is a monster, and I fully expect him to be able to outmuscle Israel Adesanya. Izzy's going to have, the ability to outstrike this guy. He's a world-class kickboxer. He's going to be better than Dricus everywhere on the feet. But we've seen what happens when Izzy fights grapplers who are big, muscly, and powerful. We've seen him taken down. We've seen him smothered. And if Dricus can outman Robert Whittaker the way he did, he can absolutely outman Israel Adesanya. I think he's going to take the title. I really do. Brandon Moreno broke my heart. Pantoja broke it again with his post-fight speech. Brazil did not go long without a champion, folks. The UFC must always have a Brazilian champion, apparently. And this was a spectacular fight. Maybe a short list for fight of the year so far in 2023. Moreno and Pantoja put on a war. Now, personally, I thought Brandon Moreno did more with the power shots, and that offset the grappling of Pantoja. I thought Moreno did enough to go ahead and get the nod. It's a split. Could have gone either way. And I need to go watch it again because I didn't have a bet on it this time. So I was just kind of enthralled by the action, and I wasn't live scoring it or anything like that. I need to go back, live score it, pick my rounds, see who I thought who won what. Maybe my opinion changes. Maybe Pantoja was the rightful winner. So I got to do my due diligence before I can honestly tell you guys that. But in the moment, I thought Brandon Moreno had done enough to win the fight. But Pantoja is more than deserving of being champion. He's put so much work in, so much time in, having gold wrapped around his waist. That is not something anybody should be unhappy with. The guy has been a phenomenal fighter his entire career. And that post-fight speech where he talked about, "Dad, are you proud of me now?" Like, that broke my heart. Like, I really hope this man understands how loved he is by the community in general, because he's got an entire country behind him. And now he's the only Brazilian champion in the UFC. So he needs to understand how special he is at this moment. Volkanovski, what are we going to say? What is there left to say about Alexander Volkanovski? I mean, he's obviously the GOAT at this point. I mean, he destroys Yair Rodriguez. You guys know I hate Yair. He is a guy with an absolutely punchable face. I hate his attitude. He's such a punk. I couldn't be happier with the way Volkanovski absolutely mauled this man. I stayed away from it. I wish in hindsight that I had pulled the trigger on the under or something like that. I think I called Volkanovski by decision, though. I wasn't ready for angry, 11th gear Volkanovski here on Saturday, though. So the way he just mauled this guy and took him down, repeated what Frankie Edgar did and then some, it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. What a card. What a card. Now, obviously, we're right back in the dumpster, folks. We're going dumpster diving this week. UFC Vegas 77. It's hot garbage. There's a lot of terrible fights on this card. But you know what? That's what the DJs are here for. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk bets. We're going to talk fights. And let's see if maybe we can find some spots, especially because this is a pre-recorded show. I'm going to need you guys to jump in the comment section, not just the live chat. After the live stream's over, get in the comment section. Let me know where you guys are at, what you think of these matchups. I'll try to come back through and reply to as many of them as I possibly can for you guys. That's a good way that I'll be able to catch up with you afterwards. First fight of the evening here. Whoops. Okay, my controls are all out of whack for some reason. That's my bad. There we go. And no, that's not working. Why is that not working? Technical difficulties. What is going on? Why will it not let me? Somebody messed with my. What the heck? Okay. This is not. All right. Next, first fight of the evening, I guess I should say, is going to be Ashlee Evans Smith taking on Ailin Perez. What a way to start the card. Ashlee Evans Smith is terrible. She's just awful, guys. I am so sorry. She's a dinosaur from a bygone era. She's 6-5. I mean, we're talking nearly 500 at this point. 36 years old, 1-4 in her last 5, hasn't fought since 2020, where she got absolutely schooled on the feet by Norma Dumont. And that doesn't happen to almost anybody, by the way. She's just a big body. She's slow, she's plodding, she stands right in front of her opponents, heavy and flat-footed. Her punches come from the hip, so she's incredibly hittable, and she really does not react well to getting hit. Now, I know Norma Dumont's got power, but anytime she gets tagged by anybody, she doesn't respond very well. She just throws kicks. Like, she kind of walks forward and doesn't really use her hands, and she just throws continuous kicks over and over and over again. A lot of them naked, a lot of them very easily counterable. I'm not sure what her game plan is in general, because that's kind of all she does. She's a bit of a punching bag. 66% takedown defense, and she will have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. Her opponent, Ailin Perez, somebody who I'm actually pretty excited about seeing back in the cage here. Ailin is a -165 favorite. That line is already moving. It was -155 a little bit earlier, and I'm a little bit pissed off I didn't get in on it already, because I think she's the right side. Big and strong. She's not the smoothest striker, but she hits really hard. Good, strong top position whenever she grapples. Her ground and pound is nasty. You love that. She's got good, solid trip takedowns and makes you carry her weight, make sure she's up on top of you. In her first fight, her UFC debut, she got absolutely handled by Stephanie Egger. She showed some good moments in that fight and showed that she kind of belongs here, but it was a much bigger entry to the UFC than she was expecting. She was able to kind of explode and get out of bad positions, get on top, things like that. She, like I mentioned, she flashed. There were flashes of good things there, but she's got a very padded record. We talked about this, all right? When we broke this fight down, when she made her UFC debut, I talked about this. She's shiny. She's got a great record. She looks good. Her loss is a DQ, but she hasn't fought anybody. And even like watching the regional tape, most of the women that she's fighting, she's like a full weight class bigger than. So she is padded as padded gets coming into the UFC. And she'd never faced any adversity, like not even a single second of adversity. She was always the hammer in every fight until she got to the UFC. And I went, I got to see what she does. I know a lot of people were ready to jump in because they all wanted to fade Egger on this first fight. And I was like, you can't, because we've never seen her get pushed. We've never seen what happens when somebody else is pushing her. And sure enough, the first time she gets any kind of pushback, she breaks. And Egger was able to get her out of there. I think this is the spot where she gets right. The UFC is kind of throwing her a bone here. Win, lose, or draw, Ashlee Evans-Smith is not long for the organization at 36 years old with that kind of a record. With how bad she's looked her last couple fights, even though they were 3 years ago at this point, she's just not going to be around that much longer. This is a chance for Ailin Perez to get in there, get some time. It is somebody who will throw back a little bit, but not too much. Like, it's going to be a win for Ailin Perez. And I wouldn't be surprised if she knocks Ashlee Evans-Smith out, quite frankly, because she will hurt her on the feet. And then when this thing does hit the ground, I think she's going to get on top of her and start throwing hammers. And I wouldn't be surprised if the ref just kind of pulls her off. So early start, I actually kind of like violence a little bit, but it's very one-sided. I think Perez finishes Ashlee Evans-Smith. Second fight up here is Carl Deaton taking on Alex Munoz. I told you guys this was a dumpster fire. I tried to warn you that this card is an absolute dumpster fire. This fight, my goodness. Deaton is a guy who, while I like him, I like his attitude, he's not UFC caliber. I feel bad because we know the UFC signed some of these people, and I don't want to call people bums, obviously, because first off, they whip my ass. But, second, I just have so much respect for everybody that gets in that cage in the first place, regardless of how they perform. It takes massive amounts of cojones to be able to pull off what they do all the work they do, train like they do, and then get on national television in their underwear and fist fight. So no disrespect, but Deaton is not a guy I think belongs in the UFC. Made a short notice debut against Sadykhov in his last fight and absolutely saved Sadykhov from what would have been the ass beating of a lifetime against Benoit Saint-Denis. I was ready, folks. I had my Thor's hammer, and I was going to hammer Benoit Saint-Denis against Joe Sadykhov. We were going to get dog odds on him, and he had to pull out, unfortunately. Now we're never going to get that. Especially with Benoit's last fight, the God of War will never be a dog in that spot ever again. So I'm very, very sad. Missed opportunity of easy money. But Deaton's got a boxing heavy style, just kind of plods his way forward. His best weapon is his big left hook. He does have power in that left hand, but Sadykhov was just one step ahead of him everywhere. Grappling, striking, all of it. He beat Justin James on the regional scene before he got to the UFC. And I mentioned this the last time we talked about this guy. he had to grapple to beat Justin James. And I mean, I like Justin James. You guys know that. I was a fan of Justin. I like that he bet on himself before that was illegal and all that stuff. But if you're having to rely on your takedowns because you can't handle someone like Justin James on the feet, yeah, that's not a good look. He didn't last in the UFC. This guy's cannon fodder. He really is. Alex Munoz is 6-2. And unfortunately, I don't have much nicer things to say about him. He's 0-2 since his Dana White Contender Series win. Hasn't fought since 2021. He lost a split to Luis Pena. He is training out of Team Alpha Male now. So good gym, good coaching staff, good strong wrestling. This is a big physical, beefy type of guy, but he shoots naked takedowns. He doesn't set them up with his hands at all. It just shoots from way outside. I think he's 33 years old. So it's not like we're going to get a better version of this guy. He's not some kid. He's not some prospect. But at the end of the day, he's got one skill that is probably at least close to UFC caliber, and that's his wrestling. So I do think he's going to beat Carl Deaton in this spot. He should. But I can't play this price on him. I mean, he's a 2-1 favorite here in this spot. Let me find it. Let me find it here real quick. It looks like... they must have moved it. I do apologize. I'm trying to multitask. It's really annoying. This is such a bad card coming off the heels of such a big card that a lot of the books actually don't even have lines out for us yet. So some of these spots that should be super easy to get to, you got to hunt around just a little bit. And of course, I'm just not able to find it. That's great. That's fantastic. He's a minus 200 favorite. He's somewhere in that ballpark, which, frankly, I can't lay that kind of a price tag on Munoz, but he should win this fight. There's absolutely no reason Carl Deaton should beat him essentially anywhere. But the thing I don't like about Munoz is how one pot shot type of striking he is. He's very slow on the feet. He's kind of your classic wrestle boxer. And I mean, like old-fashioned wrestle boxer, not a good thing wrestle boxer. Averages 3 takedowns per 15 minutes, only 39% accuracy, so it's not great. Like I mentioned, he doesn't set it up. But he will have a 3-inch reach advantage, and he does throw bombs. Like, that's the thing. He'll do that big overhand. He does have a stiff jab on him. He is slow. But Deaton's the kind of guy that's going to stand right in front of him. And when Deaton gets desperate and goes for a takedown, he's never going to get the takedown. Munoz will get the takedown. So, yeah, bad fight, bad number, bad overall, fireball and popcorn to start the evening. We got to go with Munoz, but I don't know if I can stomach any kind of a bet on the guy at this point. The next fight on the docket is Tyson Nam taking on Azat Maksum, and they are bringing this guy in looking for something big, aren't they? Holy crap. My guy, Tyson Nam, is a plus 340 underdog at this point in this spot. And this shiny, undefeated, absolute insane looking prospect here, 16-0 out of Kazakhstan. They're looking for something in this kid, right? He's 28 years old, so he's just starting to round out into his prime. And he looks dangerous. Like, you run the tape on this kid, he looks really dangerous everywhere. He's fast, he's tall, he's lanky, and when I say fast, I mean quick. Those hands, the hand speed is unreal with this kid. It really is. Great in scrambles. He can chain wrestle if he needs to. He's got good timing on his level changes, and he's got different types of takedowns to go ahead and work together. He does a good job of using his footwork and his striking to like back opponents up against the cage, and then he uses that to get to his takedowns. The key is really the footwork in this case. You guys know exactly how I feel about Tyson Nam. I feel like he's one of the easiest fighters in the UFC to handicap of all time. He's basically flyweight Sam Alvey. Or flyweight Francis Ngannou, whichever way you want to look at it. He's got stupid power for this weight class. Like, if Tyson Nam touches you, you're probably going down. Dude's got a ton of knockouts on his record, but that's really the only way that he wins fights. And he's now 39 years old. The rule is 40. We don't bet fighters after 40 years of age. You got to have a dang good reason if you're going to go ahead and pull the trigger on that. And he's kind of alternating wins and losses at this point. He's beat a couple of bums. He got a big win over Ode Osborne. But just recently, he got absolutely mauled by Bruno Silva. It's sell time here on Tyson Nam. He's got great takedown defense. So the way to beat Tyson Nam is to play the outside. You know, Matt Schnell won a split decision against him 2 years ago, I want to say. And the reason he won that fight is because he came in with the attitude of, I'm going to jab him in the face, and then I'm going to jab him in the face. That's the game plan against Tyson Nam. If you just kind of stick and move, he can't catch you. He doesn't have an opportunity to use that power. He doesn't ever have a chance to get in there and throw the bombs that are going to win him the big moments. Maksum's going to outvolume this guy. I don't know if he's going to be good enough quite to take Nam down. I'm not sure. I'm not the, foremost world wrestling expert here, so maybe he can get him to the ground, but I'm not sure if he will or not. He's obviously got crazy power. There is one of his highlight reels where he literally like turns a guy's head around. I mean, in like anime and stuff like that, where their head turns the wrong direction because they get punched so hard. That's what it looked like. This guy folded and like did a 180. Like his whole body spun around as he fell because he got knocked out so badly. Nam's been knocked out 3 times. So yeah, this is a smash spot for Maksum. It's a 1-punch win for Nam. Everybody's got a puncher's chance in MMA at flyweight, less than most. But if anybody's gonna have a puncher's chance, it is Tyson Nam. Gotta pick Maksum. Gonna keep it pretty simple and easy on that one. I don't think there's much other way to really look at it. There's no other skills even at play. Nam's gonna walk in and try to punch him, and if that doesn't work, he's gonna walk in and try to punch him again. The next fight is Genaro Valdez taking on Evan Elder. One of these guys we are excited about. The other one, not so much. Genaro Valdez, another 0-2 off the Contender Series type of fighter. One of these guys that's cannon fodder for the UFC. He got the call because he won on Dana White's Contender Series. He's an all-action fighter. He's not good. 10-2, big physical power hitter. He really explodes with everything that he does. He has good, solid range. In his last fight against Levy, actually, I was a little impressed. He did look like he had made some improvements. He had made some adjustments. He kind of slowed his pace down because this guy usually puts everything into everything and then gasses out. He just kind of burns himself out, leaves himself defenseless. He's been hit a lot. He gets dropped in like every single fight. In fact, he got dropped in round 1 twice by Levy. He's able to work through it. He's tough. I think his durability is failing him, but he's tough enough to kind of dig his way back into the fight. After the rough night that Mexico had at UFC 290, I'm kind of halfway rooting for him here in this spot because they need somebody to get them back on track after the way that fight card ended. But I just can't see it happening here in this spot. Evan Elder, 7-2. He's training at Kill Cliff FC, which is a phenomenal gym. His debut was up a weight class on short notice against Preston Parsons, and then he went to war with Nazim Sadykhov, somebody who fights a little bit later on this card. We'll talk about Nazim here in a minute. But this guy is all action. It was a bummer that fight against Sadykhov got stopped in round 3 due to a cut, because that fight was a barn burner, and I wanted to see how badly the judges were going to goof up the scorecards. Nobody knew who was winning that fight. Both guys dropped each other in round 1 back-to-back. I mean, it was a brawl. It was nuts. Evan Elder's best weapon is his body kick. This guy has a big left body kick, and he breaks people with it. He absolutely breaks people with it. He goes to it on repeat. He's got solid power in like everything that he throws, and he's got good side-to-side movement, so he'll open you up, he'll get you moving, he'll get your hands up, and then he goes to work on that body kick. He does mix in explosive takedowns. He's got a good double leg on him when he wants to commit to that. Cuts angles really well, and then he steps in and throws these big clinch knees and has a good Muay Thai plum. I like it. The problem with Evan Elder, sometimes he's got poor optics. I talked about this in his last fight when we were breaking it down before the Nazim fight. Sometimes he allows himself to get backed up against the fence. And these days, optics matter. If you're getting backed up, if you're giving your opponent space, they're going to be perceived to be the ones coming forward and winning sometimes. So in a close fight, that can bite him. I don't know that that's going to be a problem here in this spot. For a guy like Valdez, who gets hurt as often as he does and who gets dropped as often as he does, I think he's going to get hurt and dropped, and someone with the power of Elder and the ability to wrestle like Elder does, I think he's going to follow him to the floor, and I think he's going to murder him. I think this guy's going to hit him with one of those big body kicks, which, by the way, if you watch the Levy fight, go back, run it. Levy is going to work on Valdez with that front teep kick, absolutely stinging him with that thing. He did not like it. He got his hands dropped early in the first round, and you guys know I don't think much of Levy. He couldn't finish this guy after having him helpless, and then fell off the cliff and started to gas himself and kind of almost let Valdez back into that fight. But I think that's more Levy's fault than something we need to give props to Valdez for. I don't think Elder's going to do that. Elder can go a hard 15 minutes. He's got cardio. He'll work that body. He'll keep going to it. And geez, he might even go high once he gets the hands dropped. I'm expecting a highlight reel finish here from Evan Elder, quite frankly. He's a minus 295 favorite. And again, with a guy that's 0-2 so far in the UFC, it is really hard to justify laying that kind of a price tag on him. But again, you're fading a puncher's chance. This is a spot where Valdez really only has one shot at this fight, and that's landing a big enough bomb to go ahead and put Elder out. Elder's been chinned a couple times. I would be remiss if I didn't give you the entire story here. He has been hurt. He has been rocked. He's been able to work through it. I think we can rely on that toughness, and I do think he'll be the one getting the finish. But going forward, I think we want to target unders with Evan Elder, because win, lose, or draw, I think he's going to force the kind of fights that lead to people getting finished, whether it's him doing the finishing or him finally breaking because of the wars he puts himself in. So we're picking Elder. Under might be the better play. Austin Lingo takes on Melquizael Costa here in this next fight. And man, Austin Lingo is he's another one of these guys. This is the throwaway garbage Dana White's Contender Series card. This whole thing is guys that are struggling off the Contender Series. He trains out of Fortis MMA. I do love that gym. He's 2-2 so far in the UFC, but his wins are over Kilburn and Saldana. Now, Saldana is one of the worst fight IQ fighters I think we've ever seen. So, yeah, he got a win over that guy. And then Kilburn has been released from the organization. I actually think Kilburn was okay, but he has kind of fallen from glory. I don't think he's ever making it back to the UFC. And when those are your two wins, not a great look. He got smoked by Nate the Train in his last fight. Absolutely smoked. Lingo does keep a nice high boxing guard. He's got a lot of little movements, a lot of little feints. He kind of works his way into range. He does roll well with punches. He's got a nice stiff jab. But I mean, all he does is box. All this guy does is box. No leg kicks, no wrestling, no takedowns. And he's also a headhunter. So, like, you know exactly what he's doing every single fight. He's going to bob and weave his way into range, and he's going to go for your head. And you can counter that because you know exactly what he's coming for. He got destroyed by the teep kick of Nate Landwehr. If you target this guy's body, it just seems to absolutely work him. Now, obviously, maybe they patched that. Maybe they fixed that between fights and things like that. But frankly, I don't think Lingo's a guy that I'm super high on at this point. I used to be. I actually thought he was going to do well in his last couple of fights, and kind of rerunning the tape and watching his last couple of performances, I do kind of come to the conclusion that maybe he's a little limited. Melquizael Costa, on the other hand, 19-6. He's a shoot the box guy, classic aggressive shoot the box striker, comes in forward, plodding, marching, heavy on his feet. He also has a very sharp teep kick that he likes to work with the body. That's the shoot the box signal. All those guys, they've got those hard chopping leg kicks, and they've got that teep kick up the middle that they all go to. Like I said, classic shoot the box aggressive kicker here. Big explosive movements, spinning heel kicks. But he's one of these guys that really appreciates his own work maybe a little bit too much. After he comes in with a big combo, after he explodes, after he kicks, he kind of drops his hands and he admires it. He looks at it. He's not ready to go on the defense immediately afterward. He leaves these openings where people can counter and they can come back and crack him if they get the chance to. I do think there's an opportunity, obviously, for him to make improvements and, close up some of those gaps. He's only 26 years old, so he's got a bright future ahead of him if he can, continue getting better, but he definitely is taking the hard road a la Charles Oliveira when it comes to the way he's doing his MMA career here with 25 professional fights already at this age. He dropped his UFC debut on short notice to Thiago Moises. I mean, it's a wash. No shame. You can't take anything from that. He did show really good first level takedown defense early in that fight. First round, he was really putting up a really solid fight there in that spot. He's a southpaw, so the stance is going to be interesting here in this spot. I think that's actually going to aid Costa with his kicking game. He'll be able to reach Lingo with that outside leg when he wants to a little bit more often because of it. And he will have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. This is going to be a violent fight. I think this is another one where maybe we look at an under type of situation. Costa going from being a 3-1 dog to being a 2-1 favorite is kind of a little bit crazy, but I do side with him being the favorite. I think I would line him personally a little bit shorter. I definitely would like to see him be like a minus 160 or something like that, because you don't want to disrespect the UFC experience of a guy like Austin Lingo, but we've seen this story before. Somebody who's relatively unknown, somebody who doesn't have the big experience yet, but they come from a good gym. They just need their chance in the UFC. He got his chance. He took his L. Now he's here, and he might be a better fighter than Austin Lingo. So I'm picking Melquizael. Sorry, he's got a weird first name. I'm picking Costa to go ahead and win This fight, again, I don't really like that number. And especially with these fighters, they're not great. So when these fighters aren't very good and they're asking you to pay that premium price tag on it, it really makes it tough. I don't want to lay that, but I'm picking him to win. And I do think he probably does it in spectacular fashion. So maybe it's worth it. Maybe you parlay him. If you're going to risk it with the parlays on this card, folks, your butthole will be puckered the entire night. Let me tell you that. Next up, Istela Nunes takes on Viktoriya Dudakova with maybe the coolest spelling of Viktoriya I've ever seen in my life. I love it. Istela Nunes. Istela Nunes is a phenomenal fighter. She really is. For about 7 minutes. She has yet to taste victory, I believe, here in the UFC, unless I'm mistaken. She is 1-4 in her last 5. And yeah, that one win came over in one championship. So she has not won yet here in the UFC. And she's 30 years old, training out of American Top Team Brazil. Like, all the pieces are there. She's a crazy good striker. She's tall. She's lanky. She is explosive. She's got good footwork. She moves well side to side. She's got decent takedown defense. And boy, can she crack. I mean, she's got pop in those hands. Fast, accurate punches, big kicks. She knows how to shove off these grapplers and stuff like that. I like everything about Istela Nunes. But we've seen it 3 times in a row now. She folds. She breaks. About halfway into the second round of every single fight that she's in, she just completely falls apart. And once she's gassed, she is not the same fighter. So her back's against the wall here. 0-3. She cracked Yasmin Haregi in her last fight in the first round. Couldn't finish up on it the way Denise Gomez did, so she let that fight slip away from her, and she got pounded out in round 2. My girl Sam Hughes. You know, Sam was busted up and bloody after the first round, but my girl's tough as a $2 steak. She kept punching her way back into that fight. She was, I think, 2 minutes left in the second round. And all of a sudden, that tide starts to turn. She took a 3-minute prolonged beating at the beginning of round 2, but then Sam punched her way right back into that fight, and then she dominated round 3. Like, that's how you beat this girl. You stay in her face, you take her best shot, you keep her moving backwards, and she actually strikes moving backwards really well, by the way. We have to give her credit for that. But you got to get her deep. You got to drag her into deep waters, break her will, make her question herself. And if you do that, you'll win the fight. Now, Viktoriya Dudakova, 6-0, undefeated Russian prospect coming off the Contender Series. Folks, a year and a half ago, the Dana White Contender Series fade was my baby. It was my crowning achievement. It was glorious. Every single time someone came off the Contender Series, the hype behind them was unreal, and you got big, juicy plus numbers blindly fading. Every single one of them was a profitable angle, and I preached it on this show hard for about a year. They've gotten a bit smarter. They are now matchmaking these people much better. So they're having more opportunity to win their UFC debuts. Sometimes you have to get that sophomore appearance before you get the chance to fade them. But if I was going to go to it, this is a true blue Dana White's Contender Series fade angle spot. You've got a girl in Viktoriya who, unless I'm mistaken, yeah, she was a plus 200 underdog on Dana White's Contender Series. She was not supposed to win that fight on the Contender Series. She makes her UFC debut a year later, and now she's a giant favorite over Istela Nunes, who, while she has yet to win a UFC fight, has 3 fights under her belt. She's got more experience, she's older, and folks, she is a far better striker. I mean, it's not even close on the feet. This girl is a grappler, pure and simple. She doesn't even really punch her way into range. Like, that's a thing you'll hear me say a lot, is that these fighters punch their way into range. She puts her head down and runs forward. That's all she does. And she relies on being able to take whatever you throw at her to tie you up, get you up against the fence, and then get you to the ground. And even though she's very physically strong and she's tough, she is tough as nails. She did something where she got off balance and like blew her knee out in the 3rd round of that Dana White's Contender Series fight. And she still somehow managed to scramble into a takedown, get on top, and get the decision there. Like, that's the kind of toughness that you can't teach. And that's the kind of will that you want to put your money on when it comes to fighters. She's going to be somebody who we can make money on moving forward. And in fact, she might end up being some kind of a legitimate prospect moving forward. But I cannot in good conscience tell you to lay minus 250 on this girl who has 4 fewer professional fights, who is making her UFC debut, who makes maybe some of the most egregious young fighter mistakes we've seen. Even in that Dana White Contender Series fight, there were times where she just did the wrong thing. She let her opponent escape. She wasn't aggressive enough. The putting your head down and walking into punches thing is not good, and probably not something that will end well. This is a spot where I think you might have to just blindly take a stab on Istela Nunes to be able to pull one off, because her takedown defense actually is not bad. And again, it's only when she's tired that takedown defense slows. She's very explosive. She's very physically powerful. So when this girl comes in and doesn't have anything to offer on the feet, Nunes is going to bust her up. And then when she tries to close the distance, if she can defend those first couple takedowns and shuck her off, I don't know what this girl is supposed to do at range. Dudakova has no striking really to speak of. She requires the fight being on the ground. I don't want to trust a gas bag like Istela Nunes with my money, but I can't wrap my brain around getting plus 200 or plus 220 on this girl in this spot. Live bet on Viktoriya is really maybe the best option for you, because Nunes is going to win round 1. I can almost guarantee it. Nunes is going to win round 1, and she might even win the first couple minutes of round 2, very similar to the Sam Hughes fight. This girl is going to have to take all that punishment and then get her to the ground and try to get a late finish in order to get the win. And that's not the kind of person I'm laying minus 200 on. You guys know that's just me. My approach, not going to do it. It's a dog or pass from a money line perspective. It didn't work well with Shannon Ross this past week, so I understand that's a very recent example of doing one of these buy low type of spots where we really thought a fighter was going to be something and they're a complete fraud and they're not UFC level and they're not going to make it. But this is a young kid who's 24 years old with limited experience, with one path to victory. I struggle to lay a big price tag on that kind of a fighter, and with what we've seen with women's MMA dogs this year in particular, I think you just got to plug the nose and take a shot on Nunes. We'll see. I don't know if I can sack up and get to that one this week. Coming off a couple bad weeks, I'm really needing a good bounce back this week. So that might be one of those reads I cry about because I didn't trust myself. But we'll find out, won't we? Next up, you've got Tucker Lutz taking on Melsik Baghdasaryan, and I love Melsik. You guys know this. I love Melsik Baghdasaryan. This guy is mean. Oh my goodness, is he mean? World-class kickboxer, and dropped his last fight against Josh Kalibau. That was very disappointing for anybody that had Melsik. I actually was this close to betting Kalibau in that spot, and that's one of those ones where I actually think it would have been a winning bet, but not a good bet, because Melsik was controlling that fight. Melsik's range control is excellent. Melsik's kicks are incredible. Some of the hardest kicks we've ever seen. That guy is nasty on the feet. And Kalibau was having a real tough time matching him, matching the speed, matching the pace. He was the one who was on the outside of the range. Anytime he tried to crash in, Melsik was going to work with the hands, had him busted up, had him bleeding. It was a Melsik fight. And then he slipped. And it looks like Kalibau gets a knockdown, but actually I think Melsik was a little bit off balance when they kind of clashed into each other there. He falls on the ground, and I've never seen someone's back taken faster. Josh Kalibau dove on this guy, like desperately to get it to the ground, managed to wrap up a neck in the scramble, finds the back, sinks in the rear naked choke. You go, Josh Kalibau. Like, talk about stealing victory from the jaws of defeat. He turned that entire fight around and got a spectacular finish after being on the back foot for 7 minutes. That's why we love this dang sport. But for me, I can't help but look back at that and go, Melsik was in control every second of that fight until that happened. And now he's taking on a guy in Tucker Lutz, who, in my opinion, is a step down from Josh Kalibau. This guy's 12-3, very short, compact, all torso. I mean, it's so weird. He's got this foot and a half long upper body, and then he's all legs. It's so weird. He's got a very weird frame. Lots of counters. He likes to feint a whole lot, work his way into range. He does seem pretty physically strong. He's got a good wrestling background, although that's not his, primary offense here in the cage, but he likes to just kind of bite down and swing for the fences on everything. He swings super hard, tries to finish the fight with every shot. He does have a good get up game. So if you do take him down, he works his way up to the feet. Nice timing on his own level changes. He does a good job of like feinting the takedown and then comes up with like power hooks and stuff like that. He's got a big left hook. That might be his best shot, is that big, powerful left hook. And he's got these long length. He's a Dwight Grant. He reminds me exactly of a white version of Dwight Grant. He's got those big, lanky gorilla arms on him and the short torso. That's the comparison. That's the one right there. I found it. He does back up, however, with his hands down. He's a guy that will swing and his arms are so dang long he can't get them back to protect his chin all the way, so he's there to be hit. He just kind of relies on that toughness and durability in those exchanges, has to hit harder than his opponents. When he fought Aguilar, he did win that fight, but he was getting hit. I noticed he was getting pieced up on the left side. The left punches, the left kicks, they were all coming through. And this is going to be a southpaw versus orthodox matchup. The left body kick of Melsik Baghdasaryan is his best shot. That's his best weapon. It's brutal, it's vicious, and he goes to it on repeat. I think he's going to have a lot of success with those kicks. And even though Lutz is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here in this spot, I just think Melsik is a far better striker than him. And I actually think that he's going to be able to stuff takedowns from Lutz if Lutz tries to go to a grappling heavy game plan. I think Melsik gets back on track here. Tough loss for him to take last week, but I think this is a spot where he can get back on track. I like Melsik a lot this week. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and hear from the sponsors. Thank you very much, first and foremost, to Pub Sports Radio for supporting and always sponsoring the show. You guys, free Pub Sports Radio contest every single week, $100 up top. Free entry, free sign up. Come check it out, pubsportsradio.com. All you got to do is pick your fighter, your round, and your method, and whoever takes it down is getting $100 every single week. Next up, Spectation Sports. We're going to get back to the regional scene here in just a little bit. We got some good shows coming up. Nothing last week, so there wasn't a whole lot to shout out. But this weekend, there's North Iowa Fights, which is awesome. And then after that, we've got Cage Titans coming back around. So make sure you guys check this out. That's where we find out about a lot of prospects and keep an eye on them before they get to the UFC. Promo code DIEHARD gets you 20% off your subscription. So make sure you go check them out. Next up, if you tailed me or if you decided to bet on either Pantoja or Dricus Duplessis at UFC 290, you have earned yourself the right to wear a don't trust your balls and always trust your balls shirt. No, I'm just kidding. Seriously, if you guys like the show, if you enjoy the content, if you do want to support me, the coolest way that you can do it is rock some of my merch so other people find out about the show. I've got my link in the description for the shirts and all that good stuff. We've got a bunch of different designs, so head over there, check that out if that's something you guys want to do. But the easiest way you can support me, and it's free, is hit the like button. So do that for me real quick. Next up, we got the Sharp app. You guys want to check them out, especially if you like, the analytical stuff. They've got models. They've got the Discord. They've got coaches that are giving out free picks in every single sport under the sun every single day. And they've got free articles and things like that on the app as well. As a matter of fact, Mitch has been on fire. He was on a 15-2 run with his baseball picks. You can see it right there. Mitch's lock bet of the day. Make sure you check those out. They have been awesome. And finally, last but certainly not least, is Bet Openly, peer-to-peer betting. Guys, I showed you this one last week. I gave 2 bets out that you guys can, come take my action if you like the other side. I lost them both, so people got their Clint bucks last week. The way this works is you're essentially cutting out the middleman. Think the way that like Uber cut out the giant corporations for taxis. There's no house. It's peer-to-peer. So if you want to play a side, you come over here, you click create a bet with everyone. You can do singles. You can even do parlays if someone wants the other side of it. You pick your fighter, and here you go. The best part is because we're cutting out the middleman, it's 1% juice. So everybody gets better odds. Whether you're on the favorite or the dog, you will get better odds on your bet. So it benefits us all long-term to be on here. The bookies make money by balancing their risk and having action on both sides of the line. So yes, we are betting against each other, but if you naturally find yourself on the opposite side of a bet from someone, you might as well get a better line on it, and then everybody long-term will make more money from it. That's the idea. I'm not sure which one of these I'm going to put up this week yet, but keep an eye on social medias. I obviously will pick another spot this week for you guys to come go ahead and go head to head with me and get some of these Clint bucks if you would like to win some of my money. Definitely going to keep on doing that. It's a whole lot of fun to bet heads up with you guys. Plus you get the bragging rights of taking my cash. If you do win, I got to turn it around. I've taken way too many L's on this so far. So I gotta get a win this week on one of these bet openly spots here against you guys. But I always try to pick like a coin flippy fight that's got some good back and forth action on it. So one of you guys wants to like come in, jump in here and play with me. I will post a link. The link is going to be in the description actually, guys, because again, pre-recorded show, the link's in the description. Do me a favor, please go click that link. They gave me the numbers this past week and I think we only got like 16 signups or something like that so far. The best way you can support me is by helping me out with the affiliates here. So please click the link, sign up, just check it out. Even if you just throw 50 bucks in there or something like that, it would mean the world to me. Those signups absolutely matter. And it helps me keep the free content coming to you guys. And frankly, it just helps me straight up like support my family and stuff like that. So thank you all so much. Let's get back to these last couple of breakdowns. The next one up here is Terrance McKinney taking on Nazim Sadykhov. And we talked a little bit about Nazim earlier in the evening. Terrance McKinney got exposed in his last fight. We cashed in big on Ismail Bonfim, and then I missed the turnaround fade on Benoit Saint Denis. I missed my own spot. I can't believe to this day that's going to haunt me, folks. I said Terrance McKinney. Obviously, his physical gifts are something that you cannot teach. It's something that's going to make him a good fighter for the rest of his life. He is so fast. He is so explosive. He's got such a good frame for this weight class. He's got a wrestling background, and he's got natural power in his hands. You love it. Like, this kid is going to be good, but he needs some time. He's super young. He's super raw, and he just mauls people. He just runs through people in the first round. He's going to have to learn to slow it down. He's got to be able to take these types of battles. Anybody that's been able to extend this kid has gotten him out of there. And that's just kind of the way his career's gone so far. If he doesn't win in the first round, he's probably not winning the fight. Bonfim got him out of there. Dober was able to tank the damage, and we know he's the Crimson Chin, so he's going to be able to come back, and that's what he did. He knocked him out. You know, early on when he was on the Contender Series way back in 2019, Sean Woodson got him out of there with a big knee in second round. That's what happens to him. So that's where my handicap stays at this point. Until we see that he's going to do something different, I can't trust the kid. And that's all it comes down to. I'm waiting for the opportunity that maybe we can make more money backing Terrance McKinney the way we used to. You look for the submission prop because he's got a sneaky, underrated grappling game that people just kind of forget about because he bangs so much. And after taking the L in a kickboxing fight the last time out, I actually think we probably kind of see him return to that grappling game. It's going to come down to Nazim. Now, Nazim is awesome. This guy trains out of the Longo Serra fight camp. He trains with Matt Frivola. He actually reminds me a whole lot of Matt Frivola, except maybe a more durable version of him. I'm not sure he's got the offensive firepower that Matt Frivola has, you know, the way he's able to nuke people like that. I don't think Nazim's got that natural gift, but he does have the cardio. He does have the pace. He does have the wrestling, and it seems like he's got the durability. I worry about Matt Frivola's chin. When he gets touched, he kind of crumbles. This guy, on the other hand, seems to be able to get back up and tank those kinds of shots. So basically all this comes down to is, from what we've seen, we have to assume that Nazim should be able to take the early onslaught from Terrance McKinney and then work his way back into this fight. Also, a key point I think that we need to notice is that they have already game planned for Terrance McKinney. Now, Frivola got death touched, right? The first time this guy tapped him on the chin, he was out of that fight. So T-Rex has that big knockout over Frivola because of that chin. And so we never got to see what the game plan was. That kind of thing keeps things interesting for Nazim because the game plan probably has not changed. Their teammates, the coaching staff, they know what to expect. He's going to come in here and we're just going to get to find out what they thought was going to happen the first time around. I think he can survive early and then probably put a pace on T-Rex. But again, I'll be very curious to see what those props kind of look like because Nazim has been hurt before. He has been dropped before. And I want to see the face-offs. I want to see how big Terrance looks against this guy because if he does have that grappling advantage, you know, the one loss that Nazim has is by sub. So we need to look at that because we got those, 6-1, 7-1 sub props on McKinney when people forgot he knew how to grapple before. there might be a chance for us to touch those again after the shine has kind of faded from him in his last couple fights. Nazim is a minus 150 favorite. I will lean to his side, but I think this is mostly going to be a take notes type of fight. I think this is one you can sit back and watch and see what kind of adjustments McKinney has made to his game. And then, of course, if there's a live opportunity, maybe jump in at that point. Props could be very, very interesting. And I think over could also be very, very interesting. Even though these guys tend to be finishers, I think there's a chance Terrance comes out and does kind of what he did in his last fight, where he tries to take things a little bit slower and starts to work on that gas tank and round out and complete his full-on MMA game. Maybe we see a little bit of a longer fight in this one. But again, mostly just taking notes. Probably going to pass. Next fight up, Ottman Azaitar takes on Francisco Prado. And potato power Ottman Azaitar, I think his time in the UFC is done. This guy's got unreal power, but he's a prince. He's like the Prince of Morocco or something like that. He's basically royalty, and he fights because he wants to, and it's fun. And the UFC was trying to get into Abu Dhabi, and they're like, he has connections, so they let this guy knock out bums because he needs to feel special. And frankly, he hits really, really hard. But this is a hobby for him, and at 33 years of age, after getting exposed by Matt Frivola in his last fight, you know what we've noticed is he's fought nobody. He's fought absolutely nobody. You know, he's got guys that are really bad or padded before he gets to the UFC. In the UFC, he fights Timu Packlin, and Kama Worthy, who's one of the chinniest guys on the roster that got cut a long time ago. Like, those are his two big wins. This guy goes to war in the first round of every single fight. He's on all the good stuff, so he doesn't gas out. He needs to take, a 2-minute breather halfway through a fight and can use some power double legs to get his air back if he needs to. And then he can get people out of there in the second or the third round if they're not able to take advantage of it. But he flurries. Like, when he hurts people, he just starts throwing hooks. And he throws short winging hooks from inside. The standing TKO of Kama Worthy, looking back on it, that thing was so sloppy. I'm so bummed I didn't take the chance on Matt Frivola. I talked about how this might be too much of a step up in competition, but I didn't actually pull the trigger. Francisco Prado is a guy the UFC is super high on, I think. He's from Argentina. He's 11-1, and he came in against Jamie Mullarkey. And if that tells you anything, if you're making your UFC debut against Jamie Mullarkey, like, the UFC thinks at least a little bit of something of you. Mullarkey is a gatekeeper already. Like, he's a good, solid fighter. And this kid put on a great performance. He was supposed to win that fight. He was favored over Jamie Mullarkey, which was silly, obviously. But he's 21. He's 21 years old. He's a brutal, violent striker. He hits hard. And he showed off in the Mullarkey fight that he's got a chin on him, too. The problem was he couldn't find him. He's not sophisticated enough yet because he's so young. He wasn't able to track down Jamie Mullarkey. Mullarkey had the perfect game plan in that fight. He was light on his feet. He was elusive. He skipped around to the outside, and this kid just wasn't able to cut the cage off. He wasn't able to force that brawl that he usually has. And if he gets that brawl, he wins. He's got a 100% finish rate. He bites down on the mouthpiece, and he swings for the fences. He's got this leap in left hook. He's got hard leg kicks. He does have a good big blast double on him, so if he needs to grapple, he's got that in that back pocket of his. And frankly, he's extremely aggressive off the ground. So when he gets put on his back, he's got a couple of armbar submissions from guard. He's got strong hips. He's got quick, explosive, swiveling hips. He's dangerous everywhere. And he likes his spinning heel kick too. I think he's going to finish Ottman Azaitar. I think Ottman has finally got to the point where he's not the guy that he thought he was. And I think the UFC is finally done with the sham of pushing Ottman Azaitar. They're putting him in fights that are legitimate fights with people that can actually fight back. And because of that, I think he's going to lose a lot of those fights. We've got a short favorite line here. My guy Prado went from being a minus 250 favorite over Mullarkey to now just being a short minus 135, I want to say. Where'd it go? I'm sorry. I'm looking for it. Like I told you, I'm sorry. The lines are all jacked up today, and finding them is difficult. He's a minus 125 favorite, it looks like, against Ottman Azaitar. And I would argue that Ottman Azaitar is a step down in competition from Jamie Mullarkey. I think Jamie Mullarkey's got a much better, well-rounded MMA game. than Ottman Azaitar does. So for him to be a shorter favorite, also getting the step down in competition, frankly, just makes no sense to me. Yes, he made his UFC debut. Yes, he's coming off of a loss, but I don't think that Ottman Azaitar can replicate the fight that Jamie Mullarkey put together. And it's pretty clear the UFC wants the 11-1 21-year-old to be the guy carrying the flag moving forward. So I think I might have to bet on this kid. I might have to take that opportunity. Next up, we've got Norma Dumont taking on Chelsea Chandler. And boy, I could not have gotten Chelsea Chandler more wrong in her UFC debut. Big Norm, you guys know how I feel about her. I don't think she's very good. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Not that I don't think she's very good. Big Norm is very, very good. The problem I have with Big Norm is her fight IQ. She does not make the right decisions ever. Like, she got out grinded by Macy Chiasson, which, by the way, I did cash a ticket on when that happened. But you put your money on Big Norm, and you're going to be constantly screaming at your TV for her to do something. Please throw. Please shoot a takedown. Anything. She's actually got an underrated submission game. She's pretty dang good on the ground, but she never uses it. She never goes to it. She's got these big old running back tree trunk thighs on her, and she hits really hard on the feet, but she's super low volume. So all of her fights are way closer than they need to be, and she's not nearly as spectacularly technical as she seems to think that she is. And even like the Danielle Wolf fight, she could have finished Danielle Wolf 20 times in that fight. Did she do it? No, she didn't. She let her squeeze on out of there and put herself in a couple bad positions. I don't like Norma Dumont. Chelsea Chandler, this is only her second UFC fight. She's very raw still, but she's coming out of the Gracie camp. And boy, does she really rep the Gracie. She's like a female Nate Diaz. She's got that mean, angry look on her face from Stockton all the time. Absolutely wrecked my girl, Julija Stoliarenko. Now, because of the grappling, I did bet on Julija because I thought she was going to get the arm. And you know what? In the very first round, my girl, Julija, who is the number one winningest round one armbar in the history of MMA, she set up a beautiful armbar, and she had it. This girl defended it easily. Reverse position, gets on top, slices her way to mount, and mauls her. Absolutely mauls her. They get on the feet. She's got power. She may not be the cleanest striker, but she's got pretty accurate hands, and she hits freaking hard. She's a truck at this weight class. She's big, she's strong, she's 29, and she's got a processed game plan, which I think is far better than Norm's. Like, you know exactly what you're getting from this girl. She's going to march her way forward. She's going to bite down on the mouthpiece. She's going to take your shot to land her own. She'll double leg you if she needs to. And even though she's coming out of the Gracie camp and apparently she's got really good submission defense, she prefers to just punch people through the canvas. And I'm okay with that. I actually like that quite a bit. Norma Dumont's a minus 140 favorite. And believe it or not, I may be taking the plus 120, plus 125 shot on Chelsea Chandler. I'm going to maybe sit back and see where this line goes because I'm obviously not the best market reader in the world, but I kind of feel like people are going to bet Norma Dumont for being the more experienced fighter. And I know I've used that as something that we want to lean on as somebody who's got the extra experience that matters a lot in MMA. Rarely do you want to go against the experience. But I feel like Norma Dumont's kind of topped out. Like, even since she's been to the UFC, she's just never gotten any better. She's the third ranked woman in this division, and she just never does anything differently. She never extends. She never gives herself a chance to pull away from her opponent. Chelsea Chandler, on the other hand, that's all she does. That's all she does. I think Chelsea Chandler is probably going to kind of replicate the Macy Chiasson game plan. She'll come forward, she'll swing heavy, she'll level change when she needs to, and then she's going to hurt this girl. I really think Chelsea Chandler probably gets a second spectacular finish. And we have seen Norma Dumont knocked out before, so it's not like she can't be finished or anything like that. I think Chelsea Chandler is going to go ahead and get it done. I like the dog shot. All right, folks, we're getting close to the end of the show here. I'm actually apologizing here. I rambled a little bit too much at the beginning. I know you guys love a long show, but I was supposed to keep it nice and tight. So we're going to try and wrap these next couple fights up and get it done here. Walt Harris returns to the UFC, taking on Josh Parisian. And this is one that I can save a whole heck of a lot of time on. Walt Harris, he disappears for 2 years. And the whole daughter situation where she went missing, I feel so poorly for him for that. I feel bad for him and his family. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he's picking himself up, but there's no way this man has changed. He's 40 years old. And he's only ever been an athletic round one finisher. That's all he's ever been. That's all he ever will be. This guy comes forward and he looks to punch your head through the canvas, and he either wins by first round knockout or he falls apart and loses after that. He's got 13 wins. All 13 are by knockout, most of them in round one. So I fully expect that's what he's going to come out to do. Of course, he's saying that he's going to show some new game plan or some new wrinkles, whatever. Dude, you're 40 years old. It's not happening. Josh Parisian is kind of barely hanging on to a UFC roster spot here. He's alternating wins and losses, coming off loss, interestingly enough. But he's a big, tall, long, flabby, old school heavyweight. He's not athletic at all. He's 34 years old, though. He's got decent volume on the feet. The only thing he does really well is his ground and pound. Like, supposedly he's a BJJ black belt, but he never shows anything at all whatsoever resembling BJJ. He's a sloppy volume striker on the feet with zero power whatsoever. So this really feels like a spot where the UFC is trying to get Walt Harris a win. They're trying to do their boy a solid. He's going to come in here and he's going to nuke this man on the feet. The thing is, Josh Parisian's actually pretty tough. He's only been KO'd twice, and one of those was like the Dontel Mays crucifix position. Like, he's not an easy guy to like starch. So I'm not entirely sure how this is going to go. I'm pretty sure it's Walt Harris first round KO, but this is also a live bet opportunity because Walt Harris falls apart. If this fight gets extended past that first round, have your trigger finger hovering over the Josh Parisian money line, because there's a chance he could work his way back into this fight, because quite frankly, that's all Walt Harris does, is give people a chance to come back into the fight and lose. Albert Duraev takes on Jung Young Park in your co-main event. Holy balls, this is a co-main event. It's so bad. I'm sorry. This fight's going to be fun, folks. This entire card. The entire card is going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining. It'll be violent. It's going to be a good one to watch. But as far as name value goes, dear God, this is an awful co-main event. Duraev got on track on his last fight via split. Thank goodness. Got the win there for me. But I talked about how I think he took Buckley lightly coming into that fight. And a focused, motivated Duraev is different from I'm going to walk over you Duraev. But he's 34 years old. So winning a split against Chidi Njokuani, I think, is maybe the best version of Duraev we're ever going to see. He's not getting any better from here. He's fought the neck crank win over Kaio seems, quite frankly, almost fluky at this point. But he beat Roman Hopilov before he turned into who is now Roman Hopilov. And then he got beat by Buckley, and he won a split over Chidi. Like, I don't think the ceiling is nearly as high as I originally expected for Albert Duraev. I do like his game, but he's another guy that slows down massively after round one. His grappling is good. His takedowns are good. He's physically strong. He hits really hard, but all that goes out the window after about 6 minutes. His hands sink low towards the middle of the second round. He's not nearly as defensively solid in the second round. The takedowns stop altogether. Like, he took down Chidi Njokuani twice in that first round. I thought he was going to finish him in the first round. Didn't do any more takedowns. Like, that was it. It's over. He can't grapple after the first round because he's too tired at that point. He only ever lands about one to two takedowns per fight. At least that's been the UFC track record so far. And he's supposed to be this mauling wrestler, boxer type of guy, but he can't get more than 2 takedowns in a fight because he's too tired to do so. Jung Young Park has good, solid takedown defense. He's well-rounded. He's 2 years younger. And frankly, outside of getting melted by Anthony Hernandez, which there is no shame in that, and then running face first into a bomb from Gregory Rodriguez, this guy's looked fantastic. And I think he's fought a higher level of competition than Albert Duraev, and maybe a higher level of competition than Albert Duraev will ever personally be. He's got a couple bums in his last couple fights, Dennis Tallulah and Joseph Holmes, but he handled them. Like, when you fight guys and you get that step down and you maul people, that's what you're supposed to do. He proved he was the better man in those types of fights, and he got them out of there easily. I think this fight will look a lot like the Eric Anders fight. You know, Eric Anders came in and shot a bunch of takedowns, but he was getting boxed up by Jung Young Park. Park was out-voluming him big time. He's far more defensively solid. They call him the Iron Turtle for a reason. Gregory Rodriguez is the only guy to knock him out. He is hard to finish, and his grappling game, I don't want to say it's underrated anymore, because against Holmes and Tallulah, that's what he went to, and he made it look easy. I mean, this is a spot where I think we need to kind of fade the Albert Duraev resurgence here. You know, he got the win for me last time. We might need to just spin on a top here and go ahead and bet against him here in this spot. I think the Iron Turtle is probably the right side, and especially the deeper this fight goes, I know the cardio for Jung Young Park is going to be much, much stronger than the cardio for Albert Duraev. So as long as he avoids some kind of fluky early finish, because he has been knocked out, he's lost decisions, he has been subbed. He's not a perfect fighter by any stretch of the imagination. He could lose this fight. He could get finished in this fight, but I think he's good enough, tough enough, smart enough. I think he'll win some of those positions. I think, honestly, if he's smart, he forces Duraev to grapple early and stays safe in those exchanges, and then has a guy that's tired out and less dangerous in the second. I'm thinking probably a round 2, round 3 finish for Jung Young Park. And I don't know if it's a sub or it's probably a KO. Duraev's KO, all of his losses are by knockout. 4 losses, all by KO. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if the cleaner boxing of Jung Young Park saved the day here and got it done for him in this spot. All right, everybody, main event time. Again, do me one more favor. Please hit that like button for me. Does a wonder of good here for the show. Let people know you're enjoying the content, and let's break this bad boy down. Main event time, Holly Holm takes on Mayra Bueno Silva. And, folks, 2023 has been the year of the dog. But more than that, it's been the year of the changing guard. I called this at the beginning of the year. We are going to see an ushering of these old veteran fighters out of the UFC. The new blood is taking over. Dricus du Plessis last weekend is a perfect example of that. Last weekend, just a couple days ago. I think we're going to see a lot of this, and we're going to continue seeing a lot of this. Not to show my hand too much too early, but, you know, Holly Holm here in this spot, she's 41 years old, folks. Now, you guys know I love Holly. I love Holly. She can She-Hulk me anytime. There's something about her. She's the preacher's daughter. She's a good girl, and she kicks ass. Nothing to not like about Holly Holm. On top of that, she's one of the greatest fighters on the planet. She's been a UFC champion. She's wrapped gold around her waist. She's solid everywhere. Big, physical, and strong, and we know physicality goes a long, long way in women's MMA. If you're bigger and more physical than your opponent, you tend to win, even if you're at a skill deficit, because they just can't handle it. Well, I guess that's men's MMA as well, but it's rare that you get these overpowering, physically strong women in women's MMA that distance themselves the way someone like Holly has over the course of her career. She appears to still be on the good vitamins at this stage of her life as well. The thing is, Mayra Bueno Silva is getting better every single time we see her. She's 31 years old, so she's in her prime. Ever since she moved up to 135 pounds, she's undefeated. Her last 3 fights in a row she's won have been up the weight class. It seems like that weight cut was really a problem for her. And now she's getting a big opportunity on a big stage against a big opponent. And is this the time that Father Time snatches Holly Holm from us? I think it might be. You know, I dove deep, really deep into this main event fight here for you guys. And some of the things that I noticed, Holly Holm still obviously has all the volume in the world. She can hang with the best of them and still put over 100 significant strikes up. But it seems like she's not dealing with the power the same way that she used to. You know, this is a fighter that's able to walk through the punches of Chris Cyborg back in the day. And now she was on the wrong end of a split decision against Ketlin Vieira, because in that fight, every time she got cracked, she backed off. Every time she got hit, you could just tell those punches were stinging her. They were bothering her. And it dropped her volume output quite a bit in that spot. She ended up losing that fight. I think we can see a very similar situation here. Mayra Bueno is vicious on the feet. You know, she's got that stabbing teep kick to the body. And I mean, her last fight, she fired off like 6 of them to start with right off the bat. She hurts people. She destroys your abs. And that has an effect on your cardio as well when you have that kind of a stabbing teep kick to the body. Once your body's hurt, you're not quite the same anymore. She also is very good in the clinch. And that's maybe where Holly Holm does her best work, is in the clinch. I've always said it's death taxes and Holly Holm by decision. She'll get underhooks. She'll pin you against the fence. She'll slow you down. She'll pull you into this deep waters war where she's going to just flourish better than you can. And in the clinch, Mayra is going to be someone who can hang with her. She's got powerful knees from that position. She constantly attacks the body. She's got big elbows on the break that she comes over the top with. She likes her spinning heel kick. She likes her spinning back fist. She's got that big clubbing overhand right. Everything that Mayra Bueno Silva does on the feet is to hurt you, and it almost dares you to like shoot a takedown and level change on her, because as much as we love her offense on the feet, her grappling is next level. She's deadly with her submissions. It's like the floor is lava. You only need one opportunity on the ground for her to snatch up something. I mean, her fight with Lena Landsberg last time out is a perfect example. You know, she's controlling the grappling and Lena's doing everything right defensively. And the one time Lena goes, okay, now my turn, she gets knee barred. Like the very second that she engaged without being 1000% focused on her defense, she got her leg snapped off. That's how good Mayra Bueno Silva is on the ground. And even though Holly Holm is incredibly difficult to finish, I cannot get the Miesha Tate fight out of my head. You know, she dropped the title to Miesha Tate deep in that 5th round when she had beaten Miesha pillar to post in that fight. She made one mistake, gave up her back, and got tapped out. And suddenly the UFC's got a new champion. I mean, I was a fan. I'm glad Cupcake got a chance to wrap gold around her waist. It was like when Bisping did it for me. I was super excited for her about that. But Holly was prone to making those kinds of slip-ups. She's done it before. She's been finished a couple times, and now she's far older, and she's not quite the same fighter that she was. She's definitely slowing down. Is this the changing of the guard spot yet again? I think it is. And Shitara is now working with American Top Team, and she's bringing in what's her biscuit from the PFL. Like, you can see a ton of training videos with her working with what is her name? Caitlin. What crap? What's the, I can't believe it. She won the PFL like 27 times. Kayla Harrison. Oh my gosh, that took way too long. Sorry, folks, it's late. She's working very closely with Kayla Harrison for this camp. So she understands the need for grappling cardio for 25 minutes. She's working her get-ups. She's working pushing off. She's working the cage control. And there's not a better body on the planet that you could be drilling those types of things with than Kayla Harrison for this type of a spot. I think I've got to bet Mayra Bueno Silva. She's a plus 135 underdog here at this spot. I'm not sure. I think she's more likely to finish in a win than not, even though Holly's tough to finish. Just the way she's built, it's almost like a Dricus Duplessis type of situation where if she wins, she probably finishes. Holly Holm doesn't lose decisions. That's frankly pretty much it. So if it goes the full 25 minutes, I think it's going to be another split decision, or I think Holly will probably edge it out. So I think it's probably Chitara inside the distance here in this spot. That's the breakdown, folks. Hey, thank you all so much for sticking with me here again on this show. Again, I'm sorry for the pre-recorded live show. Please hit that like button for me still. As always, you guys can find me on social media. If you have any questions or follow-ups, make sure you hit me up. And again, comments in the comment section below here on YouTube. I'll circle back later in the week, and I will try to get back to all of you guys who are here supporting me every single week. Without you guys, there would be no show. So thank you so much for everything that you guys have done for me. I'm absolutely blessed to have all you awesome MMA degenerates here in my life. Get out there. Have a great week. We will be back on our normal schedule for the Total Takedown on Thursday and the Undefeated Post Weigh-In show on Friday. And let's bounce back. Let's get back on track. Let's kick some serious ass this week and make some money. Love you guys. Let's roll.